Today, we entered a new phase of our fight to end Colorado's standard capacity magazine ban for good. To borrow the words of our attorney, we are starting the fight in earnest. We just filed a motion for summary judgment in this lawsuit, basically telling the court you have everything you need right now to determine that Colorado's magazine ban is unconstitutional. We are asking you to stop the process here and go ahead and strike down this law. To borrow a chess analogy, this motion is the equivalent of putting the state of Colorado in check. We are hoping that the court takes a look at the board and goes, yeah, no, this is actually checkmate. But before I dive into the details, take a moment, if you would, to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the latest Second Amendment news and lawsuit updates. Also, if you support our lawsuits to end semi-auto bans and magazine bans for good, there's a link to a citizen's lawsuit support petition in the description below. Please go sign that petition right now so that you can get involved in this fight too. Now, by way of background, immediately after the Supreme Court's Bruen ruling last year, we filed 7 lawsuits all across the country to strike down gun and magazine bans for good. One of those is a challenge to Colorado's 2013 standard capacity magazine ban. That law bans magazines that hold more than 15 rounds. Now, for a normal lawsuit, you have a discovery process where each side gets to question the other side under oath, gets to demand documents to build their case and evidence that helps establish fact, etc. You're basically building a factual record in that process. You're looking for ways to poke holes in the other side's case as well. Now, we just finished that process in this lawsuit. The Colorado Attorney General's office sat down and deposed each of our 3 individual plaintiffs on the case, and they requested and received all kinds of documents from us. Now, the next step would typically be to prepare for a trial, either a bench trial just before a judge or actually before a jury, where we would go over all of the evidence that we had compiled to prove the facts of the case, and we would ask the judge or the jury to rule in our favor. The motion for summary judgment is a request to skip the trial, and here is why. The purpose of a trial is really to establish the facts of the case. And you need that, say, if it's like an insurance fraud case, right? Because each side there is going to be arguing that something different actually went down. And so the court has to sift through all of the evidence and actually get to the bottom of what happened during the trial. That is what you would call a case based on adjudicative facts. Our case, on the other hand, is based on legislative facts. And what that simply means is this. We know that in 2013, the Colorado legislature banned magazines holding more than 15 rounds. No one's arguing about that. We know that happened. We also know that the Second Amendment says that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. No one's arguing that the Second Amendment says that either. We know also that millions of magazines holding more than 15 rounds are owned for lawful purposes in Colorado and across the country. Now, they are trying to argue that fact, but it's nonsense, and they know it's nonsense. And in fact, the state of Colorado freely admitted that millions of magazines are owned by law-abiding Americans in 2 previous lawsuits over this law. So they can try to argue with their own previous words if they like, but as we're telling the court, there is no serious argument over this. So basically, we know what the facts are. The only question left is this. Will the court agree with us that the magazine ban is unconstitutional under the Supreme Court's Heller and Bruen rulings? That should be a slam dunk. So we're very hopeful that the court will agree to skip straight to summary judgment, in other words, issue its ruling, and that ruling will go in our favor. Now, the standard for getting summary judgment is high, and that is as it should be, because if you're skipping the trial, that means whoever loses the case didn't get an actual day in court. But case law says that if there's no genuine dispute on any material fact, and if we are in fact entitled to a ruling, the court has to issue summary judgment on the case. Now, here's the fun part. There have been, as I mentioned previously, 2 prior lawsuits challenging the Colorado magazine ban. One of those was ours, but we didn't have Bruen at the time, and so the courts ruled against us. In the process of both of those lawsuits, though, the state of Colorado admitted or stipulated to every single fact we need to prove to show that standard capacity magazines are in common use and are therefore protected by the Second Amendment. And that brings us to Bruen. The Bruen test for gun control laws in court is this. 1. When the Second Amendment's plain text covers an individual's conduct, the Constitution presumptively protects that conduct. Okay, that's part 1 of the test. Does the plain text of the Second Amendment cover my desire to go out and buy a 30-round magazine for my AR-15? Yes, it does. Okay, that brings us to step 2 of the Bruen test. The government must then justify its regulation by demonstrating that it is consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. And the state of Colorado cannot show a historical analog for an outright ban on commonly owned firearms, like standard capacity magazines, which, by the way, are considered arms, since they are an essential part of the semi-automatic firing mechanism. That means that we have a right to ask the court to strike down that law and to do it now. And that is exactly what we are doing in today's motion for summary judgment. Once again, this could be checkmate for the Colorado magazine ban if the court gets it right. And then, if Colorado wants to keep its magazine ban, it will have to appeal to the 10th Circuit. And we say, bring it. Now, if the district court rules against us, we will be the ones appealing to the 10th Circuit. And we look forward to that fight as well. But we need your help to pull this off. So please, get involved in the fight to end gun and magazine bans everywhere for good by signing your lawsuit support petition linked in the description below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to get the latest updates on our lawsuits.